who is the scariest? Who is the scariest person that you had to let go, that you said, oh, and you broke the patterning?
Oh, it's my ex-husband for sure. I mean, if I'm talking business-wise, I mean, the different stages. I don't know if anything business-wise actually ever, it was never life or death of people coming or going, But the scariest was because the most vulnerable was my marriage, right? So that was the scariest. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another Awaken Your Relationships. Don't forget, hit that subscribe, like, and notification bell because we're going to help you get to a life that you love. And today we're going to talk about, are you afraid that once you shift, everything's going to fall out of your life? People are going to leave, patterns are going to leave. And guess what? You're right. But I found that so many people don't shift because they're afraid. You know, I just had a mom call me or text me the other day that said, all right, Jewel, I finally did it. She asked me 5 years ago how I left and got divorced. And she finally stepped into it 5 years later. And she goes, this is my first Easter without the kids or without a family to go to because her family's overseas and his family was here. So now she's here in the United States with nothing to do with her children. She's like, what are you doing with your kids? Question mark. So super interesting.
You know, yeah, we were talking about how, you know, there's a very real fear that if we become somebody different, that we're going to lose something in our life. And, you know, a lot of spiritual leaders will say, oh, no, you just gain more. Well, sure, when you become Buddhist or Jesus, you know, when you become Buddha or Jesus, then you gain more. But in the meantime, it's as if yes, you will lose things. And the challenge and the test is, how do you move into a new stage of life by letting go of those things, by letting those things fall away? You will lose the boyfriends. You will lose the relationships. You might lose the jobs. When you shift and everything blows up and you're like, oh no, it all blew up. No, it's because you shifted and this was just, it was karmic.
Well, and it's all falling together, really. And that's why when I work with people, it's so important to focus on, well, what do you want to create? Because while these things are falling all away, you could go down that victim patterning. It's like, no, let's stay in a place of empowerment. And you stay in empowerment because you want to make sure that it's not all falling away. And in a way that you're putting yourself as the victim.
Right. And I see that a lot. I see it a lot where as soon as something goes wrong, people fall back into their victim mindset. Oh, there's nothing.
But we perceive it to be wrong. Is it wrong? That's where it starts.
Yes, exactly. It starts with saying, okay, what's my opportunity in this moment? I have clients that say to me all the time, they say, when I'm in a tough spot, I hear your voice in my head. Right? Saying, what's the opportunity? And when you train yourself, as soon as you feel something, to stop and look for the opportunity, your words, your thoughts will shape the experience that's happening in front of you. So you can have 4 people and the same thing is happening. And one person will think it's the best thing that could have ever happened. And the other one will be frozen in their tracks because the world just came crumbling down.
Right. And it's really about, you know, I'll tell my staff this every time I have shifted in a big way, my vibration and how I'm plugging into the world and deepening the vulnerability in relationships. I'll say what starts to happen is it's only a matter of time, usually within a week or two of a big transition on my front, that then we get a couple phone calls that people have decided to go to another financial planner. And it's because they're not willing to go to that level of vulnerability. And they were energetically connected with me at that level. And it's kind of like when I got married, all the single independent women who were still in the victim of, I don't have somebody, I'm not here. You know, there was a handful of them that fell away. Just as what kills it are other women who are independent career women who were married, like that's what fills the space because it fits my identity
Right.
and vibration.
Yeah. I have a curiosity question for you. What are some of the scariest, biggest things that you were afraid to let go of that once you got to the other side, you were so grateful and you wish you had done it sooner?
Well, to become a financial planner, it's a lot of hard work. That's why it's less than 0.5% of people actually make it more than 5 years. It's not easy to build your own business as a financial planner. You walk into a room and you're like, hey, how are you? Oh, I'm Julie. And, I'm a financial planner. And they go, oh, and then they turn and they walk the other way because nobody wants to talk to you, right? Because they're afraid you're going to sell them something or some other thing. And so it's hard. It was hard building it up. And so what happens in the financial planning world is that you do everything to keep those clients. Once you get them and you have the relationships, you don't want them to go because you worked really damn hard, especially when you meet somebody and they have 10 grand of their name and you've helped them become a multimillionaire. And then 15 years later, when they're about to pop and about to like hit the pinnacle of their career and everything, they walk out the door. You're like, Jesus. So you do the things. I've been trained, I should say, in the industry to actually negotiate yourself away to keep the client because you're afraid to lose the client. And I've come to learn, I don't care, because I've come to learn that if somebody vibrates away, I need to allow that to happen. No different than letting somebody vibrate away in a relationship. If you're really being yourself and you're being authentic, you want everything that doesn't match that authenticity to vibrate away.
Who is the scariest? Who is the scariest person that you had to let go that you said, oh, and you broke the patterning?
Oh, it's my ex-husband for sure. I mean, if I'm talking business-wise, I mean, the different stages. I don't know if anything business-wise actually ever, it was never life or death of people coming or going, But the scariest was because the most vulnerable was my marriage, right? So that was the scariest, But again, I had to be true to what I knew, what was right for me and what I felt was right for the kids moving forward.
How did you stay strong when you were scared because the floor was crumbling underneath you?
How did I stay strong?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's like you create like a support system. One is making sure I'm eating healthy, exercising, making sure that I'm getting the proper nutrients and vitamins. So like getting IVs, making sure I'm doing detoxifying things like colonics or, other, Ayurvedic methods of clearing the system because when you're scared, the cortisol goes through your system. So it's about making sure that your system can stay in neutrality. I've had a lot of people say to me, I cannot believe you've gone through what you've gone through. And you're like, fine. I'm like, and I swear it's because I do my prayers, I do my meditation, I eat my greens and alkaline my body. I drink alkaline water. I exercise religiously. I do yoga classes. Like I know when I'm super stressed, the last thing I need to do is go run on a treadmill because it increases my cortisol levels. I actually need to do yoga flow classes, which drive me crazy at that moment, but it's exactly what opens me back up, right? So all these things are tools in my toolbox that help me stay grounded while it's all unpacking and when I'm in these places. Otherwise, I couldn't do it because that makes my body feel safe, right? I mean, it's all about the cortisol doesn't shoot through your system if you don't feel safe. So those were the things that actually helped me to get to that place. And also recognizing I'm really in a place now today where I can recognize, because I've calmed my nervous system so much with, thank God, all the tools that you've taught me, Rita, that I can now see going, oh, when something else comes up, I can see somebody else's patterning and it's not, I can see that, oh, they're really hurting. Like I truly, truly now understand what compassion and grace is about. And I knew the words, but it's like, how do you find compassion and grace when things are falling apart and on some level you're afraid? And I could never find that place. But now that because you always say, like, we work on you and then your outside world, if you work on yourself and the outside world changes. And I understand that by continuing to over and over again, calm my nervous system and get into that center place and keep plugging along, that's what I want to create in my life. And this is the dream. This is what I want to go towards, and surrender to the mystery of how it all shows up, because I gotta tell you, it has not shown up whatsoever how I would have thought it would have been 5 years ago. Not at all. So
how did you think it was going to show up?
Well, to me, I was like, okay, I've helped people through divorces, right? I've helped people through those times. And I see the ones that are destructive, and I see the ones that are like, oh my God, their kids are thriving and soaring and everything. Like, I was like, I'm going to choose the soaring path. Well, the problem was I wasn't the only person, right? And so you may not have the same objective as the other person. I mean, everybody wants their children to soar, as does my ex-husband. He wants his children to soar. Absolutely. There's no doubt. But I thought, take the assets, split in half. Don't play any of those financial games that everybody plays. Like, just don't play the games, right? And so I was like, split it all in half and everything. And let's just be supportive that we both create the lives that we want to create next. And that didn't come in that smooth of a package. It's still smooth.
Your fantasy ideas kind of ran headlong into the cement wall of reality.
Well, it gave me hope that it was like, okay, this is still what I want to create. This is still what I want to create, but you're not the only creator. So you have to continue to peel the onion of what's true for you with whatever layers unpack. And it causes you to go deeper and deeper into your soul, because I would think on some level, part of how my ideal world was me and my conditioning of my people pleaser and still trying to fix it, right? Because that's part of my patterning, right? And so it wasn't, we call souls into our lives to teach us what we need to learn to get to the next place, whether that's in business or personal or in family.
And there's a physical component to that. That's the interesting thing. I've done a lot of spiritual work over the years, and my frustrating part was, they would use words like we attract things, and I couldn't wrap my head around it.
Right.
Until I started to recognize physically what happens is that our cells, our whole body is vibrating.
Right.
And that vibration, like clocks coming together,
so true,
finds
right,
other people who are at the same low level of the ocean or high level of the ocean.
Right.
We're all talking to each other invisibly,
right,
and we don't know it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we are literally physically entraining to someone else's nervous system and bringing them from the other side of the room right next to us. And it's only when we stop entraining, we stop going there. We start making good choices with green smoothies and walking every day and meditating, that now physically we're giving off, let's say, a C instead of an A. And our body.
Well, it's about the fact that we have to really be conscientious of how we negotiate ourselves away. Like, I find that with employees, I find that with family members, I find that in relationships. It's like, you can never negotiate yourself away, ever. Or you will suffer at some point.
Yeah, a lot of people are scared not to. What we started talking about today, which was, how do you handle the fear of losing everything you know to step into a better world?
Yeah. Well, that's the only way you find deep, true happiness and contentment in your own life. So which do you want to drive the engine? When I look back of every decision that I had made through the process as it started to go, they were all fear-based decisions. And some of those fear-based decisions are currently kicking me in the butt, and I'm like sitting here going, my attorney says to me, Julie, weren't you the one that pushed for this? I'm like, yes, I was. I did not want us to live any more than 10 miles apart. And I absolutely pushed to reduce the normal 25 down to 10 because I couldn't figure out how I was going to pay alimony, do all these things and do everything else and drive my kids 25 miles away from my house because that's where he was going to go.
Right. You were the victim.
And it was a fear-based decision. And that has nothing to do with anybody but me. Right. I'm super clear. So just in case.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I can now reflect and see those things and just be like, that was interesting that I did that. Not going to do that again.
You're going against the natural flow.
Right. And so it was just like surrender into, like, I've realized I had some coach tell me in the process, just give him everything he wants. That's not who he is. He's just doing it to make sure that it's the opposite of what you say. And that may or may not have been true. But what I do know is that we are all each our own individuals. And when you surrender into what rises and you accept whatever rises in your life, then you don't suffer. But when you push back, in that pushback, if we can start to recognize there probably is some of that fear and those things that you're afraid of, because you're now trying to defend and create space for yourself because you're feeling too vulnerable and you're afraid.
So what's the difference between pushing back and setting and holding good boundaries?
Ooh, that has been the $100 million question, because I have spent the last 6 months literally going, I'm not doing this the same way. So is me holding this boundary me being in fear, or is me holding this boundary? And I don't know if I've mastered that one yet, Rita, honest to God. I can tell you that I'm really clear. I'm really good at seeing the other person's position more than my position. And yeah, I'm going to leave it at that because I don't want to go into details because I don't want to be held accountable for anything we talk about. Honest to God, that's a good boundary I'm going to hold for myself.
Yeah. Brene Brown taught, I just finished watching Atlas of the Heart on HBO Max or whatever. I had to get it because I'm switching carriers and AT&T gave it to me for free. And so I had to binge watch before I switched carriers. So I was like, okay, I'm going to watch Brene Brown's Atlas of the Heart. So I got it in. And one of the main things she focuses on is how language shapes our reality. So when we have these difficult situations, if we tell ourselves that it's a bad situation, oh no, what are we going to do? Then it is a bad situation and our body reacts as if it's a bad situation and it starts looking for survival techniques. But if we tell ourselves when that feeling comes up or a boundary or anything, we tell ourselves, this is a really good thing. I'm really glad I'm doing this. We look at it as a positive step forward. It ends up being a positive step forward. But it's all about how you define the experience, not what's really happening in the experience. Because good or bad, right or wrong, in everything that happens, there is an opportunity. There's a space to create something that's greater than you. And if you can find it, then you'll move forward. But if you don't find it, then you'll be weighed down. Right.
Well, and I will also say that there's other layers of complexity as well, because like it was shared with me that from an attorney's viewpoint that, yeah, Jewel, what's good for life is not good for you legally. Why the hell aren't those two things in alignment? Like that just floored the shit out of me.
Welcome to social justice. I mean, this is how the world works, and how many women and how many men are ending up in these situations. So this is an opportunity for you to advocate for ethical changes on a social justice level because of the position of power you hold for all those other people who end up in the same situation that you have.
So what I realized was when you were saying like, what's good for you know, what's the difference between pushing back and holding a boundary? That what I realized was that sweet spot is what's good for life as well as protect you in the legal system.
Right. Right.
And that is where that's the boundary holding, right? Because I will choose what's good for life. I just really feel like I had a therapist tell me I chose ethics over the law. It's a fine line. That's a real fine line. And I get that on some level though. So I'm going to choose good for life over this crazy, distracted legal system that is just another form of suffering, in my opinion, for so many people.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what? It's going to, I truly believe, you know, Dr. Sue Morter's work, she wrote a book called The Energy Codes. And I don't know if you've ever heard of it before.
Yeah, I have.
She talks about how before we incarnate, that we're sitting around, all of our souls are sitting around. She calls it the bus stop. And she says, we're all here at the bus stop. And it's like, okay, my soul needs to grow like this. And so I need somebody to do this for me in my life and act like this and do that. It really helps you go when you think about that. It really helps you come from the place of being the observer. Instead of in fear that this person's acting this way, you can really actually go, oh, so start asking yourself the question. So I called this person in to act like this towards me. Okay, so what needs to shift in me so that stops happening? And I think that's the magic, because I have witnessed and I have lived that exact thing happening, that the minute you change it in the inside, you know, then all of a sudden those things all fall away. All the things you were afraid of and fearful of, they all fall away because you finally decided that, oh, I asked them to play that role on the other side before we incarnated. So, okay, I got the lesson now. Yeah, no, here's the boundary. Sending you lots of love and compassion, but here you go. Here's what thank you for helping me get to this point. Thank you. Super grateful.
Right.
Right. It's a whole other different energy than, hey, let's write another check. Let's like whatever, you know, it's really, really fascinating. But we have to, it all boils down to getting enough space in your own nervous system. If you're not doing that work, that is the work you need to do. However, you need to create it in what I call your fourfold being: the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, and physical. You got to do it. You got to do it. Otherwise, you're going to keep repeating the patterns. The nervous system needs to be calm. And Rita, you're one of the masters at that.
Oh, thanks.
I'm not joking. Anyone who is listening to this, Rita holds all these things. She has taught me so many tools to calm your nervous system down. Like if I'm hijacked in a business meeting, something I can do that looks really great to stay neutral. If I'm sitting there with my kids, what's a playful thing I can do with my kids? If I'm, you know, wherever, like you really have, because the physical is the hardest thing to shift, because I'll talk about the fact that, you know, right after my divorce, I had really bad PTSD because of all the legal shit that came at me. You know, and I'll talk about this. We paid $600,000 in 11 months. I was assassinated. And I had to work through that. Actually, I would say that's the wrong word. I co-created that because I was in a huge place of fear. And so it was like the ego meeting the ego, the fear meeting the fear. And so somebody has to stop that cycle. And that's the process we're in now. And super grateful for all the tools that you've shown me that I can now share with not only my family, but also my clients. And so if anyone's watching this and you're afraid to step forward, Rita, you're the gal.
I have a script that I like to use. It's like your own personal mantra. Whenever I feel confused or irritated or upset or frustrated, I will remind myself that I have no idea what's going on, and then ask myself how I want to handle this. if you acknowledge the fact that you're on a rock that's flying through the universe at a, million of miles an hour past black holes and asteroids and the reality of life, you have no idea ever what's going on. You will never have any idea everything that's going on. And so cut yourself a break and say, I have no idea what's going on. How do I want to proceed from here? And that keeps you from making assumptions, from making projections, from falling into your old patterns, because it stops you in your tracks and makes you acknowledge that, hey, this is bigger than me. And then you start finding the people to get the right information. Then you start reading the self-help books, because there's something you can always do in every situation.
Right.
You just have to know where you want to go. You have to know what you really want. And if you don't know what you want, because you've never taken the time to find out what you want, to listen to your own soul, your own calling, if you don't take the time to walk in the woods and breathe deep.
Can I just share with you what I thought when you just said that?
Yeah.
What do you want? What you really, really want? I wanna really, really, really want. If you want to be my lover, you gotta get with my friends. Because
and that's where women are going. That's where we need to go, not subservient, submissive, protecting everybody else's ego, because the ego is an illusion and it's a lie. Instead, we have to listen to our deep feminine intuition, male or female. Listen to your deep feminine intuition about what's best for everybody, not just how you want to react in fear.
Yep.
Get that perspective. Take a few steps back.
Yep. Totally agree. Well, Rita, thank you so much. I absolutely love our chats. And everyone, don't forget to not only subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell on my channel, but please read us as well, and share it. We all have people in our lives that need these kind of messages, and we just need you to help us do that part. So if you could do that, that would be wonderful. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.